Cindy Gallop, thank you so much for joining.
I'm thrilled to be here, Heimo.
You know, FastForwardForum brought us together, and now for the second time, the Fast Forward Files. This is the book, it's our baby.
Excellent.
You will enjoy it, I have to say. So, the future of social responsibility. Before we start this very important topic, so what is your favorite type of chocolate?
White.
White. Why?
I just love white chocolate. And I especially love it because it's not that easy to find.
Yeah.
Especially not, by the way, in America, where I'm based. So
I see.
I just love white chocolate.
Okay, white chocolate is a good bridge, I would say, to white male in certain positions in management. So, do you feel it? Has the time come for change of perspective in this kind of matter?
Now, you're making the same mistake everybody makes when they ask me about trends in the areas that I work in. And the mistake you've made, Heimo, is that you have asked that question in the passive tense.
I see.
All of this changes when you and I and everyone else make things change, and I don't wait for things to change, I make them change.
I see.
So as far as I'm concerned, I am absolutely working to create the kind of world that I want to live in. I'm encouraging everybody else to do so as well, and it's only when we all do that together that we will see change happen, because at the moment, change is not happening fast enough.
I see. You are talking about diversity, equality, very important, let's say, topics nowadays. And so what is your strategy to do the things right?
Well, you know, I obviously am only one person,
Yeah.
but I believe that change happens from the bottom up, not the top down. Every single one of us, every single day, taking micro actions to make all of this change cumulatively adds up at scale to enormous impact. And I try and focus on change in ways that I don't see other people doing. So I am bringing to driving change and diversity, equality and inclusion through leveraging my 35 years of working in advertising, brand building and marketing. And, you know, when I worked at BBH, where I spent 16 years, our creative strategy was, we don't sell, we make people want to buy. I am not selling diversity, I am making people want to buy it. Because rational arguments do nothing in this context. Facts and figures are useless. I can point you to 15 million different, very strong business studies as to why diversity is good for business, but nothing's changing. And so in order to break into that closed loop at the top of every industry of white guys talking to white guys but other white guys, we have to make them feel that there is a benefit to them in changing. It's a bit like that old joke about the light bulb. How many therapists does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but the light bulb has to really want to change. And in every industry at the moment, the white male leadership does not want to change. And that's why we have to be, interestingly, absolutely leveraging the tools of our industry. Change requires extremely ingenious strategy and highly creative and emotionally compelling execution.
So if you're talking to these, let's say, deciders, decision makers, politicians, and there are barriers in their head, in the culture, in the systems, and if you look to the States, for instance, what is your feeling about, let's say, the big companies, the big tech companies, for instance? What are they doing?
Oh, I mean, they are being as appalling as everywhere else.
Okay.
And actually, there's a particular aspect of this that we are seeing all around us, because the point I make all the time is that the young white male founders of the giant tech platforms that dominate our lives today are not the primary targets, online and offline, of harassment, abuse, bias, sexual assault, rape, violence. Therefore, they do not, and they did not, proactively design for it. Those of us who are most at risk every single day, women, people of colour, LGBTQ, the disabled, we design safe spaces and safe experiences. And yet, again, because of that same bias, we are not the ones getting funded. And one of the things that would drive enormous change is for those of us who have a very different vision of what tech could bring to the world, who are designing spaces that would foster love and respect versus hatred and violence. We are not getting the investors and funding to make those ideas happen, and the world is a poorer place for it.
I see, because if we talk about the labor market, if you talk about, let's say, the differences between Asia, Europe, and the States, what do you think about the people in education? Do they learn the right things right now? Because we are talking about education in the States, and in Asia it's quite different to Europe. And the acceptance of being different is different as well in all the countries. So what is your mission, let's say, bridging the States, Europe, and Asia to go to the right direction?
Do you know, because I'm a great fan of keeping things very, very simple.
Yeah.
Okay, you've just asked a very complex question.
Yeah.
Okay, and part of the complexity is deep-rooted societal beliefs in every region you've just cited, but by the way, especially in Asia, that are about parental expectations of what their children do, and therefore what educational track they should be on. And so my point of leverage to break through that is simply to encourage everybody to, and I literally articulate like this, start your own industry. And what I mean by that is I encourage people to start their own business, you know, at whatever age, whatever stage they're at. But when you start your own business, you are starting your own industry, because you are taking yourself out of the system and you are designing a venture to work exactly the way that you want to work. And that is how, again, you drive real change when the norm, the monolithic old world order industry, sees how differently the new world order can do it and goes, we should also do that.
And do you think that the abilities to found a company, to build an own industry, is spread all over the globe? Because we went to Asia at Christmas time and we visited Vietnam and Cambodia. And so we saw a lot of people looking for the fortune, looking for their future, and they're really bright and they are strong and they are really running their own business. But they are fighting hard on a daily basis. First thing, to survive, and later on, more or less, to have a prosperous future. So if you look to Europe right now, and if you talk about social responsibility, is social responsibility a question of, let's say, the level in the hierarchy of the society, or where does the question comes from really?
Well, again, you know, the mistake people make is to talk about social responsibility like it's this detached thing.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, everything in life starts with you and your values. And social responsibility flows out of those values. And the fundamental starting point that not enough people do is to look within themselves and ask themselves, what do I stand for? What do I believe in? What do I value? What am I all about? Because when you identify that, by the way, it makes life so much simpler. Life still throws you all the shit it always will, but you know exactly how to respond to it in any given situation in a way that is true to you. And by the way, that is the secret of happiness. But when you identify what those values are, then you are able to live and work those values on a daily basis. And that will ensure that you are socially responsible in everything you do without even having to think about it.
You have a very nice, let's say, approach, and you were stressing it in the book as well. And this is about, let's say, to make money, to make own decisions. And the more money you make, the more free decisions you can more or less have in the future. So is it a kind of, let's say, the more you prosper, the more freedom you get, or what is this kind of idea?
Actually, this is a principle I especially address to women.
Yeah.
Because we are not getting funded. You know, basically 2.8% of all venture capital goes to female-founded ventures. And look at, you know, you see these ridiculous stories all around the world going, oh, venture capitalists are washed with money, they can't find enough founders to back, but nobody's backing us, okay? So what I say to women is, women, I want you to unashamedly set out to make an absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money. And I say to women, and I express it like that because that is how much money I want you to make. And by the way, obviously, you know, I urge them to do that through starting businesses that are designed to do good and make money simultaneously, which, by the way, just about every female founder I know is focused on. But the reason I tell them to do that is because when we, as women, make a huge amount of money, we can then use that money to fund other women. We can support other women. We can help other women. We can donate to other women. We need to build our own financial ecosystem because the white male one isn't working for us.
See, if you talk to venture people, for instance, to investors, what is your argument to invest in women?
Let me turn that question back on you. What is the argument to invest in men?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I think the men...
And it's a really serious point, Heimo, because in fact, Wade Davis gave this great opening keynote at the 3% conference in the US last November, which I speak at every year, which is the conference designed to drive gender equality, diversity, inclusion in creative industries. And he said, and he's African American, he said, you know, we are constantly being told to make the business case for diversity. Where is the business case for white men running everything?
Oh, that's true. That's pretty true, yeah? But you will change it, I know it. So, for instance, if you are going to a school, I don't know, in the States, in Europe, in Asia, what would you tell the young ladies to do next?
Do you know, and by the way, I'm asked this question all the time in interviews, you know, what is the single thing that you would tell your younger self? Honestly, the single piece of advice I would give is don't give a damn what anybody thinks. Too many people are living lives they don't really want to live because of fear of what other people will think. Fear of what other people think is the single most paralyzing dynamic in business and in life. You will never own the future, you will never own your own future if you care what other people think. And by the way, that's also something it's very easy to say, and it's a lot harder to live. But it is the single most important thing. The only way to live your life and to do your business is not giving a damn what anybody else thinks.
Let's jump into the year 2040. If you think about this year, what is the system in 20 years? Because in 20 years you can change a generation, you can change a lot. What would be the ideal world for you in 20 years?
So, again, you know, never ask that question in the passive tense, Heimo. You know, the world in 20 years' time is the world that I am working really hard to make happen. The obvious answer, by the way, first and foremost, is that if I can achieve what I am personally trying to achieve, which is to get MakeLoveNotPorn, my own startup, funded to scale, to be the Facebook of social sex, I will have ended rape culture.
Oh, wow.
Because the only way that we end rape culture is by inculcating in society and openly talked about, understood, promoted, and very importantly aspired to, gold standard of what constitutes good sexual values and good sexual behavior. And that is what I designed Make Love Not Porn to showcase. You know, our tagline is pro-sex, pro-porn, pro-knowing the difference. We celebrate the wonderfulness of real-world sex, the sex that we all have every day, that is all about consent, communication, good sexual values and good sexual behavior. We are literally education through demonstration. We are the world's first and only social sex video sharing platform dedicated to this purpose. And if I raise the funding I'm constantly looking for, and if I can scale Make Love Not Porn globally, because we are global and we need it in every country in the world, then in 20 years' time I will have ended rape culture.
Wow. All right. I think in this case everyone is on your side for sure. And I hope we will find the right investors for this big effort, I would say. Now, to come back to our Fast Forward Forum again. So what is your takeaway from the very first Fast Forward conference and book, hopefully?
My takeaway from the Fast Forward Forum that I attended was that I would love to see many more people putting that much thought and care into the design of a gathering that is truly designed to surface innovative thinking, new ideas, and to inspire people to act on them. And I cannot pay enough tribute to you for the way that you took everybody into a completely different environment. I think that's critically important. Venice obviously is a particularly lovely environment, but it was an environment that just instantly put you in a different world, enabled you to absorb the amazing creativity and art and aesthetics and inventions of centuries previously in a very awe-inspiring way that then I think really fed into all of our minds and our consciousness as we were sharing and absorbing everything that the Fast Forward Forum was enabling us to participate in. So I thought that was a really fantastic move. I thought, again, the way you actually, it wasn't just the environment of Venice, it was the way you moved us around within different locations, had us speak in different locations. Again, the locations were tied thematically to the talks, which I thought was very clever as well. And that also gave the gathering a real energy and dynamism and forward motion that I think is very important because, again, too many gatherings, conferences, for whatever purpose, are very static and they therefore do not result in action. And entirely in line with your name, Fast Forward, you know, I felt that the entire environment and the schedule and the agenda was designed to accelerate innovation and change, and I love that.
Thank you so much. You know, you're working hard on this because I'm only your servant. I try to do my best. And what is your advice for the next one? What could be for you the next step?
First of all, a very straightforward piece of advice. You must open up to more black people.
All right.
Okay, and I say black specifically because when we use the term people of colour, you know, people can point to, oh, you know, so-and-so is South Asian or East Asian. I do say black people specifically because that is a huge pool of innovation ideas that's not being tapped, but especially it's a pool of innovation ideas coming from a place of appalling bias and prejudice, and therefore a need to be even more creative in terms of how you progress forward, given the appalling racism and bias and prejudice that black people face in this country, in America, throughout Europe. You know, I would say, and especially, by the way, black women. You know, I recommend to everybody, you know, whether people are recruiting for an industry, you know, lead with the least represented segment of the community, black women. Start there. And so I would love to see the Fast Forward Forum become much more representative of the full spectrum of humanity, race, and ethnicity in that context.
That's really good advice. My dream is, you know, in 10 years' time, hopefully we will have a group of, let's say, 200 people looking forward, being pushy, like you, and we have people from all the continents, from all cultures, because then we have the right diversity, and then we will have, I would say, the movement. Because I want to have a close group of people, because then we can discuss, then we can share the thoughts. And then for me, it's like you are one of my, let's say, leading ladies, I would say, because you're leading my way and our way in your topics, in your thoughts. And if we are a group sticking together, you see it on WhatsApp. It's now nearly half a year ago, Venice, you know, and we are discussing and sharing thoughts, and we are all today coming together. Only 2 persons are missing, so that's a good sign. Mm. And so for me, it's the privilege to have you around, but I have, let's say, to invite you to help me to go to the right direction and to make the next step in the right way. So thank you so much for coming to London at the right time. Thank you that you will, let's say, join us in the next, let's say, steps as well. And best wishes to your mother.
Thank you. And by the way, I will just say, Heimo, because this plays into what you were asking about the education trap in Asia, okay, and the view of entrepreneurship in Asia. I am regularly asked what my Chinese mother thinks about MakeLoveNotPorn. And my response to that is that the day MakeLoveNotPorn makes an absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money, she's going to be just fine with it. That's the answer to Asian entrepreneurship.
I see. The best wishes to your mother for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so
very
much.
Pleasure.